Team, I will never forget the day that I finally beat my dad in a game of chess. We're talking about how to train as an individual and as a community for whatever it is that you believe that you are preparing and training for. Maybe you have this idea of a world gone mad. Maybe you have an idea of reacting to very specific and targeted scenarios. How we train and get about our business will ultimately make or break who we are as individuals as well as a collective whole. I bring up chess because I'm sure that you've played chess before at some point in time in your life. Maybe you play it now. And if you have, I'm positive that you would agree with me that if a person is trying to become better at playing at chess, the last thing that they need to do is play somebody who is of equal skill and proficiency, right? Their competencies are the exact same or less, right? I'm not going to become a better chess player and mastering my craft by playing a 5-year-old. Why? Because I'm going to stomp them each and every single time. I'm going to win because that's what I do. I win. And I'm going to make sure that I win. And so I'm going to set up the scenario and the table to make sure that each and every single time I know that I can think 3 to 5 moves ahead because I know what they're not going to do. They're not going to do anything that's going to become detrimental to myself. Now, as it turns out, this is actually how a lot of folks train. This is how a lot of military units and organizations train. This is how a lot of civilian organizations train. Everything that they do is set up so that they will have success. Does that sound right? Does that sound something like we consciously want to make a decision to do and execute? I would dare say, as far as I can tell, the answer to that question is a hard no. I want to have lessons learned. I want to improve what I'm doing. I want to learn the finite details of everything that I'm doing. And the only way to actually do that is by putting yourself into hard situations and scenarios. Now, you don't have to go to a schoolhouse to do this. You don't have to come to Stoker's training here to do this. You don't have to have been in the military to do this. All you need to do is think about how you want to approach what it is that you're trying to get after. I know tons of good dudes out there who are doing just this, and I'm hopeful that you are as well. So how can we rid ourselves of this mystique that I have to win at everything, right? Well, we have to first unpack our own egotism, our own arrogance, and our own pride. And we have to say, it's okay. Because the truth is that when the shit hits the rotating oscillator, whether it's a 2-second moment lapse of normalcy, whether it's 2 weeks to flatten the curve, whether it's 3 freaking years of madness. The truth is that who you perceive your combatants to be, your enemy, the people that you are training and working against, that you believe are working against you, they don't care about you. Rounds coming down range don't care about your pedigree. If you get hit, you get hit. Now, I'm not suggesting by any stretch means of imagination that we need to inject ridiculous scenarios into our training. Everything that we should be doing should be tough and realistic. But it's okay to do injects. That's why the military uses them. They're called measles. right? Master event scenario list. Specific things that the higher will input into the subordinates as they're going through their training and say, now go through this. Now this just happened. Now this just happened. You go through all your contingencies to ensure that however big the staff is can handle what is going to happen once you get put into the scenario and the situation that you are training for. And guess what? If you have to stop and reset and do it again until you get it right, then stop, reset, and do it again until you get it right. Quit thinking that we're all freaking Captain Americas and that the only way that this is going to end is by us coming out on top. Because history will prove to us that that is not always the case. Does that make sense? I could be the one smoking crack here. I'm still trying to figure this out, and I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts and your comments down below about how we should get after training. What's your experience? What are some pros and cons? It could be, specific as possible would be great, because we're all down in the comments looking to master our craft and looking for ways and avenues and approaches of making sure that what we are doing is worth doing in the first place, right? And to make sure that what we are doing is the most efficient way to get after business. Maybe you're out there trying to get ready for your own field training exercise or FTX, and you want to make sure that what you're going to be doing is the best way to get after business. I would submit to you that if you do use an opposing force, which at some point in time you should not restrict your opposing force and hog tie them so that they can't do the things that an actual opposing force would do. But as you're getting into your training, consider your individual tasks, right? What we would call in the military a skill level 10 task. These are the basic individual things that each person needs to be trained and proficient in. If you haven't taken the time to get these things right, to establish that baseline, to make sure that everybody is a go at this station, then you probably don't have any business moving on to a collective task. Whether it's just a small team, maybe it's a fire team level, or maybe it's a squad level. Maybe you're fortunate enough to have more than 12 dudes. You have to get all of these individual skills right, and then move on to your collective tasks. Now, as you're getting after collective tasks, I would submit to you, get those tasks right. Just like with chess, I need to understand how each one moves and operates. I need to be able to think about each piece strategically and tactically. I need to understand how the board or the field environment is arranged and how I can maneuver through them. And before I can finish the game, I need to understand how to utilize each piece individually as well as each piece in a team. How can each one support another? Once I begin to get this figured out, and now all of our skill level 10 tasks are done. Maybe these are things that you do on your own, right? I'm not suggesting that you all grab a pile of dirt and do a bunch of dry fire together, although it can be a great check on learning, right? That way you can observe and watch each other, or any other skill level task, individual task. And then you start working together, right? Maybe instead of the entire field of chess pieces that you have you ever played with just half? That can open up a whole new way of approaching things. So before we start working as a squad, I need to be able to operate as a fire team. Does that make sense? And again, I'm using these words only to indicate a group within a group, right? Does that make sense? The individual groups that comprise your major or overarching group need to be able to work individually, right? So you have a group of individuals within a small group. Can this group operate independently from other groups? Do they have specific tasks and skills that they need to be proficient at? You might call them mission essential tasks. And then once that smaller group is embedded in a larger group, once you go from a fire team into a squad, now that squad has a different set, maybe not a different set, maybe it's added on to all of the foundational collective tasks, right? How do we shoot, move, and communicate? Get all of these things right. And then you can begin to put yourself in situations where you have a larger, major scenario that you are responding, reacting, and training for. If you start with the end in mind, right? If you just start with the checkmate, you're doing yourself a disservice. You need to go back to the beginning and get all of the fundamental things right, and then progress, putting all of the individual collective tasks together, right? What are the specific collective tasks? So make up a list of the things that you think that your group needs to be able to do collectively. It should probably end up being things like, we need to know how to shoot, right? We need to know how to move. We need to know how to communicate. All right, those are 3 good basic things to get right. After that, we probably need to be able to get after things like logistics, supply, medical requirements. I need to think about intelligence and administrative requirements, all of the things, right? And then once you have those major, collective tasks put together, if you will, now you can begin to work against an opposing force. Everything is a crawl, walk, run within a crawl, walk, run. Now, once you begin to work towards that opposing force, you need to ensure that dudes are not acting and out there just cupcaking and lollipopping. That everybody, and that includes yourself, right? It's one of the biggest problems with paintball. It's one of the reasons why I don't do paintball. I don't know that I have more than half a dozen times. And the reason is because people act like idiots. You respawn and you regenerate as you're playing a game. What the fuck are we doing? Have some integrity and have some intestinal fortitude to do the right thing. So make sure that you lay all these things out, right? Give yourself your own miniature op order, if you will, of what's going to happen, how it's going to go down, and what the expectations are. That way, on the backside, when you conduct your after-action review, you can review the things of like what was supposed to happen, what did happen, what went right, what went wrong, and what can we do in the future to improve. If at the end of your training event, it's all a bunch of high fives and pats on the back, you probably weren't doing things the right way. You probably need to reset and relook at yourself in the frickin' mirror and say, let me be honest with myself. Today sucked. Man, I chewed more dirt, made more mistakes than I can shake a stick at and that I can even think about. And I couldn't name all of the things without some outside people looking at me. So maybe you do need some observer controllers. Because when you're in the thick of it, your field of view is much more narrow, right? It's much more narrow. You can't You can't see what you can't see. So sometimes it's beneficial to have folks on the outside who can see for you some of these things, so that when you do your AR, you have that ready to rock and roll. Team, make no mistake. And here's going back to the beginning. If you train in such a way that there is no realism in your training, you're fooling yourself. We're deceiving ourselves if that's how we're getting after business. Team, I am super stoked about looking forward to your thoughts and your comments to this video down below about how we get after training. And what are some bad things that we've seen? What are some good things that we've seen? That way, as we all continue on this journey together to master our craft and develop our tactical virtue, we'll be able to get stoked. So until then, you stay out there, you keep grinding, and you stay stoked.
We know you're out there! Come to my voice!
Team, if you want to master your craft and develop your tactical virtue, make sure you subscribe to the channel and click that notification bell so that you can stay up to date on future content. Consider becoming a channel member. It's going to give you exclusive access to content not available to anybody else. I appreciate you guys. Until then, you stay out there, you keep grinding, and you stay stoked.